Jerry West said that Jerry West says that the Lakers have basically taken away his lifetime tickets, and he said he didn't even get a phone call about it. He got a cold text to his wife. He said it's okay to know that they're that petty like that and whatever. And it's just weird. Like Jerry West has been Jerry. I know. Shout out to Kobe, RP to Kobe, Magic, Kareem, all these great Laker players, and just people in the Lakers organizational history. But I feel like Jerry West is Mr. Laker. Like
he's the logo, so that makes sense.
like
he's the first Lake because you got George Michael, but he was in Minnesota.
Oh, right.
Jerry
So
West
taking
was the
championships
first.
away until they retire his journey.
Right.
My bad.
That too. But he's like the first real superstar
For the
Lakers, only player to ever win Finals MVP on a losing team. So that's a fair statement to make. It definitely was Jerry West, and then I would say it was Magic, and then Kobe. Players that drafted by the Lakers. Even Kobe was drafted by the Lakers, but he was traded on draft night, close enough. Drafted by the Lakers and only played for the Lakers.
No, for sure. And then, of course, I thought about it in a funny way. Maybe he just had lifetime tickets to Staples Center.
Yeah, that what he had said.
Not Crypto Center.
Yeah, they say, hey, this not Staples, this is Crypt.
Right.
So you can't get in here.
But regardless, it's still, especially he was given these tickets by the late Dr. Jerry Buss.
Yep.
So this is just a weird situation. I'm not gonna act like I'm gonna keep up on it, but if I see more of this, I definitely will check it out because it's just a weird situation, especially with a player that really does mean so much to a team.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. I think in the end, unless it's a particular reason, which I don't know what it is. I saw somebody joke something. I don't know if it was a joke or not, but somebody said maybe because he's been working with the rival teams because he worked with the Clippers and he was kind of around the Warriors or whatever. But he's always supported the Lakers and everything they've done. He helped LeBron go to the Lakers, right? Mistaken. Right. So,
like he works for Memphis, he helped Lakers get Pau Gasol.
Exactly. So he's always kind of looked out for the Lakers, honestly. So hopefully they figure it out. Hopefully it's just a mistake because of the name change, and they go ahead and give Jerry West his tickets back.
No, for sure. With that being said, I'm John W. It's the Hoopers afternoon session, and it's coming up. It's going to be All-Star break. Well, my bad, y'all. Hold on. Because we didn't do it yesterday, but Happy Black History Month.
First of all, like my best holiday of the year, Happy Black History Month.
My bad. We didn't do a show yesterday, so we couldn't say it yesterday. But Happy Black History Month, and just shout out to everybody that's black, that's creating this content. It's good content.
Simple as that. Shout out to everybody that's black. Shout out to Black History Month.
But, we're finna be All-Star break, and the Slam Dunk Contest participants have been announced. It's Cole Anthony, Juan Toscano Anderson, Jalen Green, and Obi Toppin returning for a second year in a row. And, of course, everybody, what is this? I hate this. Like, who are these people? Like, I don't know how creative Jalen Green is, but the boy got springs in his feet.
Yeah, Jalen Green, it makes sense for him to be in the dunk contest.
And this is the type of player you want to dunk contest. He's a young player,
pick.
You get to showcase, just on a free night in the NBA where all eyes will be on him for the most part. Obi Toppin, we know he jumps out the gym. Like we've seen him in next games. Win or lose, he always gets a good one if he's on the court. Cole Anthony, for people that remember him pre-ACL injury in college, was jumping out the gym in high school as well. The only person I question is Juan Toscano Anderson, but maybe he could throw some props in there, some stuff to help his point. But it's not that bad to me. Like I said, the only person I question is Juan Toscano Anderson. I feel like All-Star, anything involving All-Star Weekend or leading up to All-Star Weekend is always going to be get the people riled up a little more with their dislike for it. But it's not that serious to dislike it the way that people dislike it.
Yeah, he's the only one that I guess you could say, why is he in there? But everybody else should be good. And I know Cole Anthony's going to put on the show. I think it's going to come down to him and Jalen Green. I'm taking Jalen. Jalen is probably going to be everybody's favorite to win it. But Cole has a personality to win. I can see the crowd getting behind him and stuff like that. But I think it'll come down to those two. But Obi has a good chance also. He's a freak athlete. So.
No, definitely. We see what Obi can do in games, so I think giving him that free space to run and not have to worry about dribbling definitely going to help his case.
But if JTA, if he won, I'd be completely shocked. I don't think he has a chance to win.
Apparently, Draymond asked Jonathan Kuminga to enter, and he said he can't really do flashy dunks. He just jumps high. Which makes sense. If you don't think you can be creative like that, don't enter.
And he don't even, I'm not going to say he don't jump high. He's He just dunks really hard. He's a long player. He's gonna get a lot of dunks. He's a good in-game dunker, not a dunk contest dunker.
I think Garrett should, but I don't know how creative
Gary Payne Jr. could have been nice in it because
Yeah.
I'm sure he could win me and go through the legs. So
all that stuff.
all those time
Put on
dunks.
the dad jersey, do it.
Nah, do no dunks. But get his dad throwing the ball. That would be crazy.
No, yeah, that would be
That would
crazy.
be nice.
But moving on, so
Yeah, I wonder why they didn't put. They should have won GP instead.
Maybe he turned it down too.
Yeah, he gonna turn it down.
But moving on to real basketball, the Miami Heat, who were in first place a couple of days ago, everybody's going crazy because they've been losing money on the Miami Heat the last couple games. But the Miami Heat, they're now in third place after I think what's a 3-game losing streak now. Lost to Toronto twice. Got blown up by the Celtics the other night. And of course, the Miami Heat is a team that coming into the season, no matter what moves they make in the offseason, unless it's just for superstar talent, they don't get looked at as a contender. They're more of a, like JJ Redick called them, a dangerous team the other day during the offseason. Stephen A. and all those guys, they can mess up, they can ruin Brooklyn's playoff chances. They can mess up Milwaukee Bucks playoff chances. And it just got me to thinking with how people talk to them. Of course, the Miami Heat fans see them one way. But are the Miami Heat really contenders, or are they just players in the league right now? Like
they got to be contenders.
No, yeah, you said that because how they built the team up, they not planning on just going to the playoffs. They plan on actually winning. But I don't think that the media sees them that way. I don't know if that's fair or not to say, but they don't get talked about that way. They get talked about as
just because of the injuries throughout the year. Jimmy has missed time. Bam has missed some time. But this team is not a young team, and there's a lot of money put into Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, Duncan Robinson. I think Bam got an extension a few years ago. Miami, they're trying to win the championship, honestly. They put some money in PJ Tucker.
Yeah.
Not a lot of money, obviously, but they put some money in PJ Tucker, bring veterans on the team. They were just in the finals 2 seasons ago. So, yeah, they're definitely trying to win a championship this year. Will they do it? Because up and down, I mean, they kind of had a team that people play to the level that you expect.
For sure.
Bam is supposed to be an all-star. He's missed a lot of time, so that's why he's not going to make it this year. But Bam at his peak is an all-star center and a defensive player of the year candidate, honestly. And they did a lot of stuff with him, kind of like how Denver does with Jokic, with him facilitating and things like that. So I think Miami is trying to contend. So, yeah, I think they're trying to contend. They're still waiting on Depot to come back.
Right.
But with the ages of players on this team and some of the money they've given out, Miami thinking at least Eastern Conference Finals, because you can never just say finals.
No, I think that's fair. And I think that's a fair way to look at it. Like, I just don't hear them being talked about as contenders, more as an underdog or whatever. But you're right, they do got a lot of money placed into a lot of players on this team. At a certain age, trade for Kyle Lowry, there definitely should be contending should be on their mind.
Right.
Speaking of a team that was people look at it as a contender when the right pieces on the court, Philly got a big win over the Memphis Grizzlies in overtime the other night. Tyrese Maxey went for 33, I think it was.
Yeah, no Embiid.
No Embiid. When Philly gets a win like that, how big they got them in their third place now as well. When Philly can get a win like that without Embiid on the court, what does that do for the rest of the players? Minus Tobias Harris, who plays like he doesn't play on the court anyway.
For one, Philly has been such a weird story this year because of Ben Simmons, obviously. And, I mean, it's been a blessing for Tyrese Maxey because he's gotten to fully just grow up and be that starting point guard. I think they're probably coming into the year, they probably more so, if they traded Ben, was thinking we got to get a point guard back. Now I think Doc is probably comfortable with Tyrese Maxey. I still think they should get a point guard, but I can see why they're comfortable with Tyrese as their starter or whatever. Sure. So it's definitely a confident booster for them because Memphis is a team that's hot in the league right now. And Maxey stepped up big. Drummond had 16 and 23. I think he has the third most 20 rebound games for Philly in the last 40 years, 30 years. Only Moses Malone and Charles Barkley have more because he has 20 rebound games this year. Not even Joel. So it's definitely a good confidence booster for Philly, but it just still goes. It always kind of leads me personally. It's just a reoccurring thing leading it back to the Ben Simmons saga because the team is trying to compete for a championship and you really missing that piece, so you don't even really know how good they really could be. Whether it was with Ben on the court or you flip Ben and get whatever you're gonna get back for him.
No, yeah, that makes sense. Like I said, it was a big win. It's a win Memphis could have used as well, just to keep momentum going. But
Ja was big down stretch. You gotta make his free throws.
No, yeah, definitely. That's a recurring thing we always notice, especially with younger players. None of them can really shoot free throws that well.
They practicing their layup packages.
No, that's fair. Everybody got fancy layups, but none of them was really shooting. They sit behind the free throw line. Make them free throws. Minnesota Timberwolves picked up a 15-point win against the Denver Nuggets last night in the game, which the whole team, Minnesota has a good mix of players. Of course, I already know what your answer is going to be. It's going to be a healthy D'Angelo Russell. But what is it that, outside of that, what is it that Minnesota is really missing to make that next playoff push? I feel like they got good, big, front court players around Cat, with Nas Reed, and
Vanderbilt,
yeah. Torian Prince is a good defender and shooter coming off the bench still. Patrick Beverly, we know what he brings. Anthony Edwards, Malik Beasley. But what is it that Minnesota is missing to kind of help them get to the next step?
They do overall have a good team. They have high character pieces on their team. Of course, we know Cat is a top 5 center in the NBA. Anthony Edwards is one of the 5 best young players in the NBA.
Sure.
I personally like D'Angelo Russell when he's on the court. He does miss a lot of time. It seems like he's always out to me, but he just plays with calm that helps the team, and you need players like him in the fourth quarter. But then even when you just get into the other pieces, I really like Nas Reed. He's a really solid player. I've always been a fan of Okogie. It seems like he's kind of lost a little bit of minutes, but he's a quality player. He's a quality player. Malik Beasley can provide some scoring. He's obviously that Will Barton, Terrence Ross, Jordan Clarkson, J.R. Smith. He's supposed to be in that mode, and when he's on, or whatever. Then is it Josh Vanderbilt? I don't know his first name. I just know it's Vanderbilt. Like, he has been really versatile for them, handling the ball and then attacking also. So they have some good quality pieces. What are they missing is kind of the question. That's what it is, the consistency.
Because it's not always a player, right? Like, maybe it's just something with the players you already got there.
Right, because, when you think about it, your team is going to be built around your quote-unquote star players. And you have that, and Cat is an all-star, potentially an all-star. Anthony Edwards is potentially an all-star, definitely but an all-star for the future. And then D'Angelo Russell is like that borderline all-star. He looks like an all-star some nights he doesn't. Then you want to fit that with quality role players around him. And like we just said, they have it. It's just a matter of doing it every night now at this point, playing good defense every night, limiting turnovers. Ant is becoming a dominant scorer. So now for him, it's becoming an efficient scorer, really. Which is not just he's taking a lot of shots, but being able to just be efficient in your shots pretty much. So that's what it is for them, being consistent every night, being the teams that you're supposed to beat. And they'll take the next step. This is only year 2 for Ant, so during the playoffs, I think they just get better every year.
For sure. Like I said, sometimes it is like with the players you got that's already there, are a good mix of players, and I do think they got a good mix of stars and role players, and it's a good mix of young players. So everybody, there's no rush for this team to be a championship contender, so they can actually build this team up to be a good team. Honestly, like I said, with those high character players.
Right, and we got a comment say they should make a move to get a bench guy at the deadline, a bench guy or two, and getting some veterans to go with those players helps. It always helps to. I don't know who these pieces are, but if you always just look at budding championship teams, not their championship team yet, but teams that are trying to get to that level, they add people to the roster that have played in championships. You add championship pieces around, even if it's just as a role model there, someone just to, just to bring good morale or that's been through the fire. Most teams that compete for championship have at least one person that's kind of been there.
No, yeah, that makes sense. Like I said, don't know who this player is.
Yeah, I ain't somebody in particular, but I think Minnesota have surprised even themselves and came back really strong. I said D'Lo has missed. He's missed a lot of time. He's been healthier this year than he's been in the other year. He still missed a good amount of time. Then having Cat back and all in, he went through a lot last year and stuff like that. They're probably looking at the team like we're better than we thought we were. I mean, they would still be in the play-in, but they've been playing good basketball.
No, surely. Not definitely that. But I did see a report. I don't know if it's true or not. I see NBA Central reported on Twitter that Minnesota may be looking to move Patrick Beverly and Malik Beasley I don't think those are maybe I get the Patrick Beverly, but I wouldn't necessarily be looking to move Malik Beasley because I will say this: if I'm Minnesota, I probably am looking for an upgrade at the point guard spot coming off the bench, or even to fill in for D'Angelo Russell when he's out.
Yeah, that makes total complete sense. Malik Beasley, you always need that Malik Beasley type player. So unless you trade him for like Will Barton, Terrence Ross, like one of the people I mentioned, somebody else that's gonna do that mold, because you always need another player that understands he's not the best player on the team, but knows when he's feeling it. Sometimes you got to turn cat and ant down, and I'm gonna take the shot. You need that sometimes on the team. So, but I get it's been some turbulence with Malik Beasley since he's been there, and that's also part of fixing that consistency thing. So maybe that's where you upgrade a little bit because they can't upgrade from. Yeah. I don't know who they would get for those two players, or what they would even be seeking for them, but definitely upgrading the backup point guard would help.
No, sure. So, as you guys know, they're announcing the All-Star reserves tomorrow. We won't be doing the show tomorrow. I don't know.
All-Star reserves tomorrow?
Yes, but we won't be doing the show tomorrow. And I feel like the All-Star reserves are just going to be just as, maybe not as controversial, but I feel like it's going to be some problems with All-Star reserves as well. Because
Andrew Wiggins problems?
I don't know if it's going to get to that level, but I think I don't know where I'm looking for, but I think because of Andrew Wiggins being a starter, which means somebody's going to lose a spot off the bench, I think that's going to bring back some more problems. So, yeah, I guess Andrew Wiggins problems.
This is a good year for a lot of people to make it for the first time, or if you've only made one, kind of get back in there, because people who normally make it aren't going to be in because of injuries and stuff like that. We know Paul George probably is not about to make it. Kawhi isn't going to be there. Anthony Davis probably isn't going to make it. Dame probably is out. Westbrook's spot is probably open. Zion's spot is open. So, and that's just the West or whatever. It's going to be a replacement player for KD in the East. You did lose Westbrook to the West, so that spot is there. I don't think Brad is making it this year. Kyrie spot this year, so it's gonna be a good amount of first timers this year. So it might be some controversy. I'm interested to see who makes it. I think Miles Bridges gets in. I hope Miles.
I was just going to ask you who you think gonna be, since Ja's already been announced. Who you think is gonna be a first timer this year?
Because I think it's gonna be hard because I don't think Charlotte is getting two.
No.
I think Boston has played good enough, but now they're gonna get one because a couple weeks ago I said they weren't gonna get any, but they won some games since then. Back and playing territory. They got two last year, so they get one this year. I think LaMelo might get the nod, but when it comes to the coaches, I think the coaches are going to give it to Miles. If they got to choose between those two, I think Miles is going to get it because his development this year. I think he's their leading scorer. I know he's over 20 a game.
He's definitely leading scorer.
But you could see LaMelo's improvement. And I think people have always looked at Miles Bridges highly, thought that he was a good player, but like the way he started this season, and he's kept it up. He fell off a little bit. He was averaging 25 a game. We didn't expect that to stand because now you're talking all NBA 25, but he's still been 20 a game, so that's all-star. So I think the coaches will reward. I got a good feeling it's gonna be Miles over LaMelo. Trying to think of a West reserve. First timer on the West. I feel like
everybody in the West made it already.
Because
you got John there, so that takes more down.
Because in the West, you're gonna get Luka,
De'Aaron Fox,
De'Aaron Fox, Austin.
No, I'm saying who could be.
I'm just saying
first time because they got De'Aaron, Shea Gilgeous.
The only other first timer potentially I personally have in the West, I think DeJounte Murray got a chance.
Yeah, DeJounte. Steve Kerr said that's who he voted for.
Yeah, I think DeJounte got a chance. Maybe he's like 19-9-9. The Spurs, they're competing. They're competing. So who?
Cash Money Records. Thanks again.
But now that's what he's looking like out there. So I think DeJounte got a good chance to make it. Especially some people think if it came down to like DeJounte and Shea,
I'm going DeJounte.
Who people like. I think DeJounte will get denied. So DeJounte would be my bet in the West, but I'm not sure that the West gets another first timer.
I can see that. I see some, speaking of trade talks, that was saying the New Orleans Pelicans might be interested in CJ McCollum and pairing him up with Zion and Brandon Ingram.
I saw that.
Do you like that? Is that kind of something getting closer to helping New Orleans a bit?
I would like it more if they would have kept Lonzo, but I guess it helps because
to the point.
I guess it helps. It just depends on that definitely takes a load off of Zion.
Yeah.
CJ can handle the ball and he can play off the ball.
Yeah.
He can provide scoring for you.
Yeah.
And then adding CJ for me for sure you're just looking for more of a traditional point guard, looking for Alexander Walker to just be more of a traditional point guard, or Kira Lewis to develop for them. You don't have to worry about scoring, just maybe attacking and getting people involved. So I think, it won't hurt the Pelicans because it's kind of like the role that they don't have Zion this year. That's kind of the role that Devontae Graham is playing because he's not really playing point guard no more. And CJ McCollum is definitely a upgrade from Devontae Graham. So anything to make the team better, why not? And what would they really give up? As long as you're not giving up first round picks, try it out. Zion needs to be competing for the playoffs next year because, as I say every year since he's been drafted, you got to take advantage of his prime. Is Zion going to play this year? I did not expect not to see Zion.
I don't think he's going to play this year.
When that boy on the court, you got to take advantage of it.
No, for sure. But I got to film off script a little bit because you just brought up traditional point guards, and that's been a real big thing on Twitter the last couple months.
Yeah. Just looking at some.
No, go ahead. OKC, who Shai Gilgeous and Josh Giddey both starting the backcourt. Who is their point guard?
Wait, say one more time.
With Shai Gilgeous and Josh Giddey and OKC, who's their point guard? Because Shai is technically the starting point guard, but Josh Giddey does more of the ball handling. If you really look at those things,
Shai has still been their point guard, but Josh, I guess he is handling the ball more. I'm not gonna act like I watched OKC recently because I really haven't.
Josh does all the playmaking for others.
Pretty much. I think Shai still kind of brings the ball to most of the court, but I haven't watched OKC game in the last week or so, so I'm not even really sure. But I think honestly, Shai has played off the ball before, so
he came in as a two.
They're kind of, if Josh Giddey kind of naturally fits at the point guard, why not just go ahead and, all right, you're the point guard. Shai's still going to handle the ball, but I'm all for players, especially players that aren't traditional point guard style players, which we don't have many of them in the NBA.
Sure.
But even those players, I'm all for everybody being able to play off the ball because you don't want to make it so easy to be able to guard. And then as your team gets better, you're going to have other people that want to touch the ball. So if you've learned to come off picks, and be effective off the ball, you're helping your team in the long run.
No, sure.
A lot of players getting stuck on the ball nowadays, and that way don't win championships. It doesn't work. I'm
just asking because, like I said, that's been a big thing of who's a point guard and who's not a point guard. But then,
and I don't know that Giddey played point overseas. He's such a good natural passer, so I think he's a good playmaker. But did he play point guard overseas? He did. Mm-hmm. So maybe he is a natural point, and because of his size, and he goes there, they say you play him off the ball. But since Shai definitely has had experience playing off the ball, and it's looking like he wants to score more anyway, why not go ahead and make that move? I think it works, and you build that way. But is Shai even gonna be on the team? Is he part of the future?
I don't know.
I don't know what OKC doing.
I don't think they do. They got all these first round picks, but I don't even think they know what they're looking for. Honestly, I don't know who they should be looking for. What they're looking for either. But that's besides all the other points. I had something else I wanted to talk about. I caught in my head real quick. But it's been good in the NBA so far. The NBA 75th year. It's been like I said, it's been a good year up to this point. Oh, the Toronto Raptors, who surprisingly to most people's idea, they are actually a playoff team this year. And I was watching some of the game, running back the highlights from last night game against the Miami Heat, and they just play a really good team-oriented game. OG, I know we put Jimmy Butler in the rim as well. Just had to throw that out there. But they play so well that you can't really tell who's the leader scorer on the team and who's the best player. Fred VanVleet has some nights. They let Gary Trent do a lot of one-on-one stuff. Pascal Siakam's back, so of course he's gonna want his shots and his looks. But we don't really see teams we haven't not so many teams that don't have that one standout player is really in home court advantage right now at this point. How long do you think Toronto hold on for this season? You think they try to make the playoffs, or at some point do they kind of say, it is what it is?
No, I definitely think they're. So I don't think Toronto's competing for a championship, but I don't think they're tanking because it always kind of come back to, for me, what are you paying the players to do?
Mm-hmm.
And some teams that are tanking usually are giving out, we're not talking about their money, counting their money for real, but teams that are tanking more so give out 1 year deals, 2 year deals. While Toronto, they traded for Gary Trent last year, they extended his deal, which he probably was coming up on the rookie extension or whatever, but they extended Fred VanVleet. We're like year 2 of Siakam's extension. So, and this some big money that they kind of put into these players. So I think they're trying to compete for the playoffs and see how good this nucleus is and see what they add. I mean, they kind of paid Siakam to be the man. He was all NBA a couple of years ago when he had that breakout season right after they won the championship right before the bubble. He was all NBA that year and all-star. So they kind of thought it was him. And then you add Fred, Fred got a good chance to be a first-time all-star. But then you add Fred to that too, and now it's one other player because most teams have 3 unless you got the dominant superstar,
right?
And then you got a second player. It's usually want 3, at least 2 all-stars and then like the borderline all-star, whatever. So it's like they're still missing that other all-star to try to compete for a championship. But I definitely think they're trying to. I don't think they want draft picks.
No, I feel
not looking for draft picks,
especially after getting Scotty Barnes in the lottery last year in the top 5.
Like I think they want to make the playoffs and possibly like not have to play in the play-in, and maybe you get upset the first round as a 6th seed and get into the second round. But I don't think they're trying to play in the play-in game either. I think they're really trying to make the playoffs.
Look, speaking of Fred VanVleet, who does have a great chance of being the first-time All-Star this year,
I won't be surprised.
I don't think anybody had him in the All-Star conversation.
Not coming in.
I know for a fact nobody has him in the most improved conversation. I was thinking about that earlier, and I was thinking I would have put him there last year because I feel like he had a really good season last year as well. But do you think Fred VanVleet get any most improved votes this year? Do you think people even think about Fred VanVleet for most improved player?
I don't think he's coming up. Excuse me. I definitely haven't thought about him as most improved, and I should have been because he has potential to make his first All-Star game. He's increased numbers across the board. I don't know why I didn't think. I guess it's just because it's been from the start. It was for me. I was looking at Jordan Poole, and then the way Garland stepped up throughout the year.
Miles Bridges,
right, and DeJounte Murray, and I think it's been. I think honestly, even though Fred VanVleet has a conversation, I think DeJounte Murray has a conversation. I think out of all those 3, Garland is the guaranteed All-Star, so he really kind of ran away with it for me.
That's fair.
But I think that probably should be. When you look at that top 3, I think Garland wins, and those last 2, because they always do the 3, it's going to be hard to pick. It's going to come down between 3 people to get 2 spots. For me, right now, thinking off the top of my head, Murray, Fred, and Miles Bridges. And Jordan Poole, any other regular year would be in the conversation, but I don't think he's in it no more. I think those 3 are in it.
You think it's an age thing? Like we see Fred VanVleet as a starter on the championship team already. He's a young player, but he's a young NBA player, but he has been in the league for a while. Like that was my thing with Patty Mills. I feel like Patty Mills' numbers are up as well to where he could have been in that conversation. But do you think that got something to do with it? He's
not necessarily. I think because Julius Randle won it as an older player. I think people didn't really acknowledge like, dang, he's having an all-star type season until a couple weeks ago. So it's no fans in Toronto right now. So they're really flying under the radar. I don't think media is at the game for us and the people that's recording the game. So they're flying as under the radar as you really can because they've really been in the playoff race since December all year pretty much. So, and he's been a good reason for it. I know he's been averaging for a while. He's averaging almost 30 after Christmas. I know he's kind of cooled down a little bit recently, but once we hit like Christmas on, he's been on fire. So I think if he was like undisputed surefire all-star, then his name would come up a little more. But I do think he's gotten overlooked just because Toronto has gotten slightly overlooked this year. I got him he's in the top 4. But Garland is running away with it because he's gonna be an all-star for sure.
That's fair.
Garland and Jared Allen, first time all-star 6 years. So I guess it's a few of them.
Let's just maybe not as many in the West.
Yeah.
But other than that, you got anything else?
No. I think real quick because I think we came from. Now, other than that, That's all for today. As always, appreciate the viewers. Shout out to the Off the Ball Network. We here every Wednesday on the Off the Ball Network's Facebook page, the Hoopers YouTube page, and the Hoopers Twitter page. Subscribe to the YouTube page. Just go to YouTube, search the Hoopers Pod. You can rewatch this episode. You can rewatch any other afternoon sessions. You can catch our any other pods and stuff on there. Every Monday, you can catch us on the Nothing But Net channel through the Dash Radio app, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. If you miss it, that'll be on YouTube also. That's why you gotta subscribe to the YouTube.
Also, it's on Apple Podcasts or whatever. It's gonna be on there as well.
Yeah,
Wherever you podcast at.
It's gonna be on there. So anywhere you get your podcast fix, Apple, Spotify, we on Google Podcasts, we on iHeartRadio, Pandora, TuneIn Radio. We on all those spots. Just search the Hoopers Pod. Again, shout out to the Off the Ball Network. Episode is brought to you by the Off the Ball Network on the Off the Ball Network's Facebook page. That's all I got.
Oh, while you're on searching podcasts, go check out Ball Fake Podcast last episode where he compares Darius Garland and LaMelo Ball. That's a really that's a good episode. It's only 15 minutes long, so you ain't gotta sit and wonder how long it's gonna be. It's 15-minute episode. He gets right to the point, honestly, in every point he makes. So go check that out. I'm John W.
Fresh X.
This was the Hoopers Afternoon Session.
Catch y'all next week.